Thank you, Lilia. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I would start saying, because my first PQ, my first Prague quadrennial was 1995 when I attended. As Kate, it seems that was one of the prizes UK got, wasn't it, Kate?
Yes, it was.
So maybe you could start telling us about your experience, because for me, there was like opening a new world going to PQ for the first time and seeing the many, many different ways to exhibit scenography. I think that was my first inspiration. So I would like to start asking Kate, what really inspired her for, how was your journey and how did you start creating exhibitions?
Right. Hello. Thank you very much for inviting us to the quadrennial, to the symposium. Really lovely to see you all again from last year. To answer Abby's question, I'm a scenographer, and I started in a very long time ago in 1994, because I think in 1991, this is a very long time ago, some of the very top British designers had come to PQ with a little exhibition of all their own work, and we didn't have a national exhibition to select from. I'd been once in a national exhibition before that, and they won the Golden Trigger, and we were thrilled, as a country, that they'd won it. But I was working up in Manchester, and I knew there was lots of work going on elsewhere in the country that was never seen in London or seen anywhere else outside the schools and the little theatres and the small spaces they were made in. And I was really angry that work didn't have a chance to be selected for Prague. I'd never been to Prague. And it was going to be a big festival in Manchester the following year. And so we had an opportunity to get a council building. And so I asked the Society of British Theatre Designers if we could have a national exhibition up there in preparation for Prague. And they agreed, and we started raising the money. And we held an exhibition, and we selected the work, and we had work from lots of little companies. It was quite fantastic what came, and we selected some, or a panel selected, selected the work, and then we took it to Prague, and that was 1995, and we won a gold medal. And it was the first time I'd ever been to Prague. I couldn't believe it. It was the most amazing experience. And so after that, I guess I was hooked, and sort of doing exhibitions and coming to Prague was very exciting. So Peter Ruthven Hall, who I was working with, and I did 3 more exhibitions. And in 2000, so we did 3 exhibitions together. And in 2003, the exhibition 2D, 3D was a very plain exhibition. It didn't have any kind of gimmicks or any big pieces. And again, but the work in it was very extraordinary. Some of it was very extraordinary. So not my work, other designers' work. And we won the Golden Trigger, and that was the most amazing. That was the most amazing thing. And we did it with work that reflected the things that were going on in the UK, work outside in the landscape, work in little tiny spaces hidden away from London, great big operas that were done abroad that were never seen in the UK. It was a whole range of work. So that was exciting. And I met Abby, and I was very excited by the Brazilian exhibition, and we talked a lot, and then we've kept in touch ever since. So that was wonderful. But I have to say it was anger that got me started. Abby, what about you? Since then,
well, I think it's quite interesting, because I came from, my education was quite random. I went to university very early, by the age of 16. And I went to study arts first, because in Brazil, we don't have this formal education in theatre design. we don't have that much, you know. So I went to study art. So I always grown up surrounded by the art exhibitions. My dad took me to see my first biennale. I think I was 7 years old, something like that. And I remember there was amazing Slovenian artist called Jagoda Bujic. She was a very good friend of my mum. My mom's Slovenian as well. And she had some carpets designed in the way and orientated the space that looks like a body's dancing on the space. It was beautiful. It was like an art installation, but full of narrative. But I didn't get that at that time, you know. It just stuck in my head for the rest of my life. Those influences you get that you don't know where they come from. And so that for me, I think that inspires me today to the way I like to see the work and what inspires me. I like to think I work between in an intersection phase between scenography, exhibition, installation, and performance. And I think that's what makes my work. And I liked provocation. I like when I did the exhibition for 2011 to Prague Quadrennial, there was awarded with GOLDEN TRIGA. I really wanted to test a little bit the limits and push discussions about, is this scenography? Is this scenography? Is this, you know, how you validate? It's fascinating how you bring elements into an exhibition as a curator and a designer, because I think we work as curators in the way we try to fill and build the narratives and design all of that together. So I think the works that designer and curator are very connected. That's the way we work. And for me, it was a chance to provoke a little bit, you know, to question, is this street work? Is this scenography? Is this little piece, little object, is a stage? And I tried, I took some risks. And I think doing creating is about you taking risks, you taking perspectives, you choosing some cuts. And in my people, not agree with you, but that's it. It's a provocation. We need to provoke.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think the kind of overriding thing for me was this sense of making visible all of the work that didn't get a chance really to get seen. So as you say, work that happens in the street, work that happens in landscape, and it's not recorded in a theatre, and to make that visible, and not only to make it visible to the industry, to the rest of the profession, but to make it visible to the public and to the next generation, to schools and children and students, because they have no idea that making the scenography is actually a career choice. You know, we used to have children come up and say, well, where did you get the scenery from? Did you get it from a store, or did you hire it? And you sort of say, no, somebody designs it. Do they? What, every time? And you sort of, those sort of questions, or how did you get that idea? How did that happen? People have no idea that you can actually do that for a living. And so it's really important, especially now, we realize our art schools are not diverse enough. We're not inclusive enough. We don't have enough people from different communities that live in the UK. And so the exhibition's a way of opening it up, I suppose, to them. And also, it's a very strange thing once you start being a designer, because when you're working, you're usually the only designer on a show. And so you might know painters or costume makers or other directors, actors, but you don't know any other designers. So actually the exhibition is a time for designers to come together and to sort of meet each other and to share and to reflect on things. And that happening every 4 years in time with the PQ is a really brilliant thing.
That's a very good point, Kate, because I think yeah, the designer work can be very lonely in the way that, the creative process. I mean, when you're on the stage, when you're in the theater, of course, you're surrounded by all the team, the actors, directors, and the crew, or, everybody. But the process of designing is sometimes quite lonely because you go to your studio, you go to this process. And I think what is fascinating in projects like that, and the chance you doing your work together to put together an exhibition, that you become a curator, an artist, collaboration, whatever, is also to defend and give space to the other artists, to your peers that sometimes will be competitors, but it's a moment we gathering together, we share thoughts, we share ideas, beliefs, and provocations. So I think is giving a space for a collaborative artistic process within designers.
Yeah, definitely.
I like, just to complement one thing, I like going a bit beyond. I like giving space because this multi-diversity from backgrounds in Brazil, people working in theater, they come from, as designers, they come from architecture, from visual arts, from performance. So I like thinking that they're all capable to give a materialization of some ideas in visualities or whatever elements they're going to use. So I like bringing those artists from different backgrounds together, from theater, from visual arts, from performance, from architecture, from cinema. And it's very interesting how people from cinema, mainly students, they are so based on the reality. It's more difficult to make a jump to create a metaphorical, symbolic representation of space.
Absolutely, yeah, it's true. I think in the UK, it's we have a very hierarchical approach to the arts, and the fine artist comes at the top, and the crafts people, the people who make, come a lot further down. It's and theatre designers, for instance, don't get exhibited in the fine art galleries, in the main art galleries. So we can get exhibited in an art gallery and museum. So for instance, the Victoria and Albert Museum has crafts, if you like, in it, and fine arts, but it doesn't have art. It's not like the Hayward Gallery or the Royal Academy or something like that. And it would be almost unthinkable for theatre design to be exhibited in those. And I find, even though they'll exhibit David Hockney's design for theatre, but that somehow is above the very famous theatre designers, even like Ralph Koltai. So it is a very crazy...
Yeah, but it's interesting you mentioned that, because in Prague 2011, we went to a gallery, to the National Gallery. And I think that inspires me to think about, okay, we are in a national gallery. Yeah. So let's bring the scenography to the status of art. Yeah. And that's what I tried to do in the exhibition. And it's a fascinating having a space like V&A to exhibit, the national exhibition for the theatre designers. And how did that happen?
Well, I don't want to go on too long about it, but we were booked to exhibit the Prague selection in the Theatre Museum in Covent Garden. And the V&A owned the Theatre Museum, and they had a very big deficit in their budget, and they realized it was the same amount, the deficit was the same amount as what it cost to run the Theatre Museum for the year. So they just closed the Theatre Museum and restored their budget, and then realized that they owed us a residency. And so they invited us to be the first exhibition in their theatre and performance galleries while they were getting them ready to open with their own exhibition. And that's how we went in there. So almost an accident, but ever since. So that was 2007, and we've exhibited there with the PQ selection and a bit more ever since. So, and it was because they realized it was the most popular, one of the most popular exhibitions in the entire museum.
That was for collaborators?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Because I helped in fitting up the exhibition now. That's fascinating to hear. I didn't know that was the first one.
That was the first time we went to the V&A, and it was almost an accident. And,
oh, that's amazing.
So
yeah. Kate, can I ask you something? Because I think you do a very important work as well. I was always fascinated by the catalogs you create and write and put all the ideas together. They are brilliant. I think everybody should have a copy of those catalogs because they're really inspiring. They really explain the process of the creating and design thinking. So can you tell a little bit about what inspires you to, create the catalogs, the importance of the catalogs, and where you're driven?
Yes, I mean the catalogs are really, to me, they're very important because they are a lasting record, if you like, and they're a lasting record long beyond the exhibition and long beyond the theatre shows that they were for. When we first started doing the catalogues with Make Space in 1995, they were really quite a simple record. But the thing that Peter and I wanted to do was to let designers speak as well about their work. So when they submitted their work, we asked them for a little statement. And even that with that simple little kind of 150 words, it's amazing. Some people will tell you about process, how it happened. Some people will tell you about the inspiration. Some people will tell you the plot of the play. And some people, well, Stefanos Lazaridis, a very famous designer, he simply put in 4 lines from the opera that he was designing. And it was amazing. In all the visitors' books, we saw those lines quoted. So people really looked at the text. You find people always look at a text that goes with a painting or goes with it. And because theatre is a hybrid form, it's visuals and it's words and music and so on. So actually, it's not a problem that people look at the words as well as the visual. So that was the kind of the first thing. And then as the catalogues developed, it became quite important to me to try and have essays in them as well. So this, I was thinking about students, and I was thinking about opportunities again for designers to talk in greater detail about their work, particularly the really unusual work that's going on outside the mainstream, like Wild Works, landscape theatre, Birmingham Opera, huge operas happening in the community in that city, and so on, giving those people a chance to talk and be a record and be there for students as well. So all of that, I know it sounds ridiculous, but the indexing the photographers, making sure that you could find people by plays, as well as the names, all their collaborators, the lighting designers, making sure all of those are visible. That's also kind of motivated the catalogues. But anyway, I think we're getting close to time, aren't we? What about you? Do you find...
We still have, I think we still have a few minutes. Yeah?
Yeah? So
maybe.
So how do you combine the curating with your other work, or do you almost consider that everything is curating now?
Not necessarily. It depends on the project, to be honest. Of course, when I had another opportunities to work as curator, that's not just limited to Prague quadrennial situations and the national exhibitions, many other projects. And there was a time I started creating my own projects because I was really interested on exploring different ways to produce and to perform and to exhibit scenography. So I started creating a project, I think was really inspired by a project I did in 2015 in Prague. There was the No Man's Land. There was like a street occupation. Then I invited all the artists to work together. So from there until last year, basically, I spent like 5-6 years working on a project that I call Cena, or Desenhos de Cena, they're called drawing scenes. And I did 3 different versions. One was a big exhibition with 16 artists from 8 countries, 5 continents, but quite ambitious project. The second one was more like a playground and lasted 3 months. So we would perform every day during 3 months. So it was like a bringing possibilities, a different costume, light, sound, space design together from different artists, different countries. The second edition was in Taipei, was a tentative, was just a playground project, I called. So I invited people to deliver some work in progress through workshops. It was 4 workshops, lighting, sound, space, and object. So there was a way just bringing people, making things together, and the objects will remain on the ground and people could play with that. And after, during the 10 days, these will be growing in the ground. The third project was the Intersections. Intersections was a series of artistic residences. And when I was doing the curatorial work for national exhibition for Brazil, last PQ 2019, I combined that project that was ongoing, there was my own project, Intersections, to put for Prague Quadrennial. So the outcome of Intersections will be a series of installations, performance, basically first doing in the site specific and then taking into a neutral space, if neutral spaces exist, but as that's how I call it at the moment. It's a big discussion. And so for Prague Quadrennial was quite amazing because the entire concept, because I was working with designers, we are performing, we are creating installations, we are dealing with a very meaningful site specifics, historical, political, relevant in Brazil. And when I went to Prague, I thought, okay, I need to create different layers of the same exhibition. So I had this thing in mind to make a movable, a walkable exhibition. So I duplicated the space of the Brazil exhibition, National Exhibition 2. There was a physical exhibition that will show 10 projects from artists that have been set in theater or streets or whatever, but it was more like an archive, a register of work being done in the past 4 years. But in some time, people will wear, 10 people will wear those exhibitors, those wooden boards. They will walk away of the space, and that space will be transformed into a performative space. It was quite mental because it was 10 days of a full program.
Yeah.
But the title of the exhibition is quite interesting because it calls the body, its territories, and the body as a space, territory, and its borders. And it's very much where we ended in 2020 by the pandemic. So I think sometimes doing a curatorial work, I don't know if that's for your work as well, like that, Kate, but I think sometimes it's being connected. Also what is going on is getting out of the box and connecting what is going on locally, globally, and you know, trying to create tensions and discussions about where we're going. So of course we didn't know about the pandemic, but we are living in a moment in Brazil that we are not very sure what was going to happen next. There are lots of political problems as in many countries, the rise of the fair right, all of that. So we live in a moment of uncertainty. So the moving away was a necessity, and it was a response about feeling unfixed.
Yeah, yeah. Goodness, I think you have a much greater political imperatives to respond to probably than us in some ways. I don't know. They seem pretty dire here as well, but not in the same way. I think probably the thing is one of the things that most important to me is that the exhibition, and I'm thinking about the next PQ, where they want it in a way to be more performative, more a festival of performance, of the moment, you know, of performance, if you like. And for me, the exhibitions are a very important thing as the opportunity for reflection, a moment to actually, time to think, to look and to think, and to do it in your own time, to take your time. And I don't think we get enough of that because there are so many moments rushing past us, so much of, you know, we're in a performance all the time, as it were. And so those moments to step out and look at work are really essential. I should say that it was always important to me that we had that performance space, that live element in the exhibitions. And in Collaborators, we had a workshop space in the middle of the exhibition and in Manchester, that was the Royal Exchange's touring mobile space, actually fitted right in the middle of it. And we programmed that with workshops and performances and talks and everything every day. And when we were in the V&A, when we went to the V&A and they offered us this gallery space, we said, well, we have to have this workshop space in the middle. And it was a lot of logistics, a lot of working it out, but we did. We had temporary exhibitions and talks in there. There were costume workshops, there were all sorts. And it was the first time I think they'd ever done that. So I was very proud of bringing, sort of animating, if you like, that space.
Yeah, that's very interesting you're saying, because something I miss sometimes in PQ, and I think the UK exhibition did last time, is there's the space for the conversation as well. There's a space for the dialogue, because we just rush, we jump here and there looking, oh, amazing exhibitions, everything, but we don't have much time to sit and reflect and talk about what we're seeing, what's going on.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important part of it. And then finally, just the last exhibition I did was 2015, and we were a bit like you. We were kind of thinking we don't want to be in the main hall, so we planned to put our exhibition into a van, and it was going to be in a courtyard. Because do you remember it was spread all around Prague in different venues, and I think there was a palace, an old palace they wanted us to be in, and we didn't really want to be in there in competition with all the historic, you know, sort of chandeliers and everything. So we thought we'll do a van and we'll put it in there, and then when we get back we can just take it touring, exactly, and take it to the courtyards of different galleries and people can come in, and we designed how it would work and everything. And then the space that PQ gave us, they clearly didn't want it, was completely wrong, and instead
I remember because I received the proposal as I was an artistic team. I saw the proposal. I thought was brilliant, but wasn't supported by
it wasn't at all. I was so fed up because we were partly saving money. We could have, you know, it would have been an exhibition we could have taken on tour. It would have been great. And it did all the things we wanted to do, of taking it to bits of the country that, you know, don't get this. But anyway, it didn't happen, and then we ended up in the room in the palace we really didn't want, and the great big room. And so we did what all designers always do, you know, when you run out of any other thing that you can possibly do, you say, we'll do it all with projection. And so that was when Backstage Academy, that you're now working with, came on board, and with their skill, we put together this immersive projection that went all the way around, like wallpaper on the walls of all the different shows, and that was quite something to do. So there we were, heralding, I suppose, the digital age. I don't know.
Yeah, but you know, I think we touch a very good point. For me, for example, I'm very touched by the idea we breaking the borders. I don't understand why we go, because I remember it was 2007 as well, when we had the immense pink platform with the costumes going across all the countries. Of course, it was organized by countries, but it was a mass of, you know, like a a field of costumes. It was a beautiful thing because there was no borders, there was no square limits. And I think more and more, if you want to be global, if we want to be, you know, working together, we should stop having those, you know, the limitations of a space, the square spaces. So I think the idea of putting the exhibition in a van and taking on tour, maybe movable, is about breaking the borders.
Yeah, well, we'll do it. We'll do it one day. Yeah, we'll do it one day. So I think, would you like us to wind up? I think we can probably talk forever.
Plane, there was just a plane passing here.
Right. Okay.
Say again?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we can probably talk forever, but
yes.
I don't know if you would like us to stop.
Yeah, I think we run out of time already, Lily. So feel free to interrupt us and pass to the next, because that's a lovely conversation.
Yeah, if there are any questions anyone wants to ask or... No?
Я хочу сказати, але я хочу спитати вас українською. Please enable translate in your panel interpretation. Yeah, choose English. You hear translation. Насправді я просто дуже сильно розхвилювалася, тому що я дуже рада вас бачити на нашому симпозіумі. І хочу прийти на українську, щоб вам подякувати за те, що ви робите, безпосередньо для України, за те, що ви включаєте нас у свою комунікацію, за те, що ви постійно долучаєте нас до інформативного потоку, до того, що відбувається в світі, до того, що зараз відбувається великий конгрес OISTAT. Ми насправді зараз дуже прагнемо включитися в цю комунікацію на постійній основі. В 2019 році відбувся на Празькому квадрієналі перший, так би мовити, гучно заявлений перший павільйон український. Зараз ми прагнемо знову ж таки долучитися до наступного Пражського квадрієналі, готуємося, пишемо, думаємо, придумуємо. І от, власне, Львівське квадрієналі – це такий ще один крок до того, щоб долучитися до Пражського квадрієнале. Плюс у нас через рік ще буде Київське трієнале сценографії, яке вже буде відбуватися в 5-й раз. І я би хотіла просто запитати, що б ви побажали нам, нашій такій активній команді, яка все прагне і все хоче осягнути неосяжне.
Goodness. Abby or me?
You can go first. I can go next.
Thank you for that lovely question. We really look forward to you taking part, and we were all of us terrified. We're all terrified every time, you know, every national exhibition, all the designers come and they look over their shoulders and, you know, and are worried. It doesn't matter how famous they are. It's a very daunting sort of thing to be amongst all of your peers, and to be putting your work out there is frightening always. But I think we learn from every country that takes part, and every new country that comes along, we learn from them. And I would say, just think about what you want to do. Don't worry about Prague. Don't worry about all the you know, requirements and the this and the that. They're doing what we've always had to do, which is to create an umbrella, an amazing umbrella with from which people can take something and find something to respond to. So think about what you want to show and what is important to you, and that's the key, always the key thing.
Well spoken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, can I just answer to Lilia's question as well? Because I think Kate touched on a very good point. They launched this theme of rare, and there is a big discussion about what that means and what they expect. But as Kate said, it doesn't matter what they expect. So it could be that I know how difficult in some countries, because you might have your big stars designers who expect to be invited, be carried, away from Ukraine to Prague and be treated specially. But it's very important as well to engage the young designers and to listen to your community, to listen to the artists and engage them in the process. Because the process of doing that is quite as hard, is lots of work. And it's good as early as people understand that you're doing that for them. And you're an artist as well, you're a designer as well. And you're a designer that giving your time, your dedication, your brain, your talent to give space for your colleagues. So I think that's very important, engage them in the process and bring more people as a team. Of course, you need to organize people in functions, but as soon as you do that, it's lovely. So maybe you can have your stars in the exhibition, so on, and you could engage all the designers, youngers or middle-aged, whatever, in a work in progress that results in something there. They feel engaged, they feel participating, and that facilitates your next, jump for next exhibitions, and to maintain that, because it's not just about doing one participation, how you maintain that afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nino.